Chapter 1 The Deposed Prince, Guarding the Imperial Tomb. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Prince Qin Feng colluded with the demon sect. His crime is unforgivable. From now on, he will abolish the position of crown prince and send him to guard the Imperial Mausoleum of Taizu. He will not leave for the rest of his life. An imperial decree of Emperor Xia, carrying the anger of him and the officials, was uploaded from the court. From the beginning to the end, Qin Feng was in a daze, not knowing what was going on. Under the escort of the Imperial Forest Army, he went to the Taizu Imperial Mausoleum. I didn't go to climb Mount Tai for fun. Did I get crushed to death by Kowloon pulling the coffin? Why did I suddenly appear in this place? Qin Feng murmured to himself, could it be that I've time traveled? In the following time, the memory fragments that flooded into his mind confirmed his thoughts. The owner of this body was originally the crown prince of the great Xia dynasty. He had just returned from a tour of the north, but he was considered to be in collusion with the Northern Wilderness demon sect, and was abolished from the position of crown prince, and sent to guard the Taizu imperial tomb. This is a bit too miserable. Qin Feng couldn't help but said, it's nothing more than traveling to such a fantasy world where the strong are respected, and he became a deposed prince who guarded the emperor's mausoleum. However, it was outside the range of the spirit-gathering array in the imperial city, and the aura was not abundant, even thin, and he would no longer receive the cultivation resources issued by the imperial family. His cultivation might last his whole life, and it would be difficult for him to achieve anything. In the end, he would die in poverty for 100 years. Escorting Qin Feng to the Taizu Imperial Mausoleum, besides the Imperial Forest Army, was also the Minister of Rights. This can be regarded as giving Qin Feng a little face, not letting the Minister of Criminal Justice bring him here. It is not considered to deal with him according to the law. Your Highness, the Emperor Taizu's mausoleum has arrived. At this moment, the Minister of Rights respectfully said to Qin Feng, he didn't show any disrespect because Qin Feng was abolished, because no matter what Qin Feng was, he was still a prince. If there is any place where he surpasses the etiquette of his courtiers, I am afraid that he will be imprisoned tomorrow. Ah! Qin Feng nodded and got down from the chariot. Standing next to a huge stone tablet, he felt the cold autumn wind, and looked at the withered Taizu Imperial Mausoleum in front of him. Although the area here is very large, it is dilapidated and desolate, with overgrown weeds everywhere. On an ancient tree not far away, a few crows croaked and flew up with flapping wings. The few quaint buildings are also somewhat dilapidated, exuding a desolate atmosphere. Qin Feng had a wry smile on his face. This Taizu Imperial Mausoleum is protected by a formation, so there is no need to guard it at all, and there is no one here. I'm afraid he will be here alone for the rest of his life. Your Highness, you will live here from now on. After a pause, the Minister of Rights said, if there is a need for attendance, I am afraid that the Emperor must personally issue an order. It stands to reason that no matter how the prince is deposed, he should have several attendants, but after all, this is the mausoleum of Emperor Taizu, with a special location, so without the emperor's will, no one dared to arrange attendance for him. No need. Qin Feng waved his hand. In his current situation, if he dared to ask the edict to serve him, he might even lose his life. The Minister of Rituals nodded, and after having someone help Qin Feng clean the room, he unloaded all the daily necessities he had brought and put them in order. At the same time, he told Qin Feng the rules and etiquette to be followed in the imperial tomb. Although no one would know even if Qin Feng didn't abide by it, he still had to say what he had to say. After finishing everything, the Minister of the Ministry of Rights left the Imperial Mausoleum with many imperial soldiers. Hey! Before leaving, the Minister of Rights looked back at Qin Feng and shook his head helplessly. Who would have thought that the former crown prince would end up in such a situation? By a single thought, that he would die alone in the withered royal tomb, spend your life in a miserable way. But this can only be blamed on Qin Feng's bad luck, and it can't be blamed on others. The Minister of Rights turned and left. On the other side, Qin Feng, who was about to get acquainted with the Emperor Taizu's mausoleum, suddenly heard a system notification. Ding! The host is detected, and the system begins to bind. 1%, 10%, 50%. Hearing the notification sound from the system, Qin Feng was a little stunned. As a traveler from Blue Star, he certainly understands what a system is. it's just that I didn't expect to be able to obtain the system. Apart from being handsome, he doesn't look like the protagonist in a novel. How to get the system? Just when Qin Feng was wondering, the notification sounded again, indicating that the system had been bound. God-level sign-in system. Looking at the name of the system, Qin Feng asked, "Can you introduce, what kind of functions does this system have?" After binding the system, the owner can sign in anywhere in the world and get corresponding rewards once a day. Moreover, the more special the place where you sign in, the richer the rewards you can get. The system's voice without emotion explained. Then, can I check in multiple times at the same place? Qin Feng asked again. He is now forced to guard the Taizu Imperial Tomb, and it is difficult to go to other places to sign. Yes, but for signing in at the same place, only the first time you sign in, the rewards you get are the richest and rarest. The rewards you get for subsequent sign-ins are all random. The mechanical voice of the system explained to Qin Feng. After listening to the introduction of the system, Qin Feng nodded thoughtfully. He also had a clearer understanding of the system. Help me sign in at the Emperor Taizu's mausoleum first. Let's see what rewards I can get. Qin Feng said slowly. Ding! You have successfully signed in at the Emperor Taizu's mausoleum. Congratulations to the master. You have obtained the Imperial Chaos Sword Body. This object cannot be placed in the system space. Do you want to choose fusion? The system reminded Qin Feng. Special physique. Qin Feng's eyes lit up when he heard the system's notification tone. His body is very ordinary, and this special physique is exactly what he lacks. He did not expect to get a special physique reward when he signed in for the first time. More importantly, in this world, sword repair is almost the strongest existence in the same realm, and it is extremely rare. Someone opened the gate of heaven with a sword, someone kills an immortal with one sword, and this Primordial Chaos Sword Body is obviously of great benefit to the practice of swordsmanship. Without any hesitation, Qin Feng sat cross-legged on the ground and chose to fuse the Primordial Chaos Sword Body. In an instant, monstrous sword intent poured into his body and began to reborn him. What? Qin Feng suddenly let out a painful voice. He felt that every bone and every meridian in his body was being washed away by the sword energy. Painful, the soul is trembling. This kind of pain is simply unbearable for human beings. Fortunately, there was no one else here, and no one could hear Qin Feng scream. Even if he is a deposed prince, even if he dies here today, no one will know, let alone care. After 2 full hours, night had already fallen, and it was the Primordial Chaos Sword Body that was completely integrated with Qin Feng. He passed out in pain. Chung! And at this moment, the sound of a sword's cry resounded through the world. Not only the entire imperial city, but also hundreds of miles around, heard the sound of the sword, as if a divine sword had been unsheathed. At this moment, in the imperial city, whether in the imperial palace or the mansion of the big family, countless figures soared into the sky. What happened? Where did that sword cry come from? These people stood in the void one by one, looking around, but they didn't know where the sound of the sword was coming from. Emperor Xia and several ministers who were discussing affairs also came out after hearing the news, standing in the void. Their eyes were also full of disbelief. What's going on? Could it be that a peerless sword body was born in my imperial city? Emperor Xia said in shock. This kind of strange situation usually only appears when a special constitution is born. Just like the Taizu of the great Xia dynasty, on the day of his birth, there were 9 looming golden dragon phantoms rolling in the sky, which were the bodies of the legendary 9 dragons. It should be. A minister said in a deep voice, do you want to send someone to check every baby born tonight in the imperial city? Not only the imperial city, but also the entire area covered by the sound of swords, and the babies born tonight, all of them must be checked. Xia Huang said in a deep voice, the speed must be fast, and absolutely cannot let other people take the lead. Within the imperial dynasty, there are many powerful sects and aristocratic families, and even the royal family dare not do anything to them. If they find the baby, it will definitely not be good news for the royal family. According to the order. The minister nodded. Then he left to get busy. Emperor Xia stayed in the void for a moment with a complicated expression, and then returned to the palace. He wanted to mobilize the mysterious forces he had established to investigate the baby's location. He never imagined that the person with the peerless sword body was the crown prince he deposed. P.S. The plot is absolutely wonderful. Everyone can rest assured to give 5-star praise. It's not good to see you come and chop me up. Hum hum. Chapter 2 Astonishing Cultivation Speed. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The comatose Qin Feng didn't know how much commotion he had caused in the Imperial City. The entire Imperial City was in chaos. Strong men from various sects and aristocratic families gathered, are looking for him. It was not until late at night that Qin Feng slowly opened his eyes, and there was still pain in his eyes that could not be concealed. Grass. He struggled to get up from the ground, and the mood at this moment can only be described by this kind of green plant. The painful torture just now made him want to die, and he was about to burst, and it continued to crack for several hours. Looking back now, I still have a feeling of lingering fear. System, come out for me. Why didn't you tell me that fusing the Primordial Chaos Sword Body would be so painful? Qin Feng called out the system and asked. If he had been mentally prepared, he wouldn't have been so embarrassed. The master didn't ask. There was no mood swing in the system's answer. Qin Feng was dumb, he was speechless. He didn't seem to ask, but why would a normal person ask if it hurts first when it's the first time? Never mind. Shaking his head helplessly, Qin Feng ignored the system, but began to slowly get used to this body that had been fused with the Primordial Chaos Sword Body. Compared to the previous ordinary physique, this Primordial Chaos Sword Body is indeed countless times stronger. After a long time, Qin Feng couldn't help sighing. What makes him most obvious is that his physical strength and spiritual strength have been greatly improved, and absolutely no one in the same realm can compare with him. There is absolutely no problem in leapfrogging. I'm hungry, eat something first. Qin Feng, who hadn't eaten for a long time, went back to his room first and looked for something to eat. This is the dry food that those Imperial Forest Army brought to him when they came. New ones will be delivered every month thereafter. If he wanted hot food, he had to cook it himself. After eating, Qin Feng lay down and rested. Now his realm is too low, it is impossible for him to practice continuously without resting. In the early morning of the next day, the sun had just risen, and Qin Feng had already woken up from his sleep. After walking out of the room, because he was in a better mood, looking at the scene outside, he didn't feel desolate anymore. System, sign in at the Emperor Taizu's mausoleum. Qin Feng said with a smile. Ding! Congratulations to the master, you signed in successfully and got a bottle of Earth Spirit Bell lotion. The system beep sounds. At the same time, a small jade bottle appeared in the space of the system. Earth Spirit Bell emulsion. Qin Feng was stunned, and asked incomprehensibly, what's the use of this thing? That with doubts in his heart, he took it out of the system space. After gently opening the cork, I immediately felt a strong aura gushing out like a fountain. Almost instantly, the aura around Qin Feng's body increased several times. Even ordinary animals that are not magical beasts have sensed the changes in the aura here and cast their gazes over. What a rich aura! It's just right for me to practice. Qin Feng's heart was full of joy. When he was sleeping last night, he was still worried. The aura of the Imperial Mausoleum was so thin, and the royal family would no longer distribute cultivation resources to him. How should he cultivate? Unexpectedly, the second time I signed in today, I got such a rich aura of heaven and earth treasures. Tick-tock. Qin Feng tilted the small jade bottle slightly, and a drop of milky white liquid flowed out and landed on Qin Feng's left hand, crystal clear, fragrant, almost like milk. I just don't know how it tastes. Qin Feng murmured. Afterwards, he swallowed the drop of milky white liquid. In an instant, Qin Feng felt like nectar flowing into the dry desert. The rich aura instantly exploded in his body, into his limbs. It actually made him feel ecstatic. Comfortable. Qin Feng couldn't help but let out a slight groan. It's so comfortable too, compared to the first pain last night. It was truly ecstasy. After these auras ran around in his body for a while, they began to enter his meridians and nourish his body. Qin Feng did not neglect, and then began to meditate. Less than 1% of the aura in that drop of Earth Spirit Bell emulsion was released in his body. It will take a long time for him to fully absorb it. For a full day and night, Qin Feng sat. Cross-legged under a tree to practice, absorbing the earth spirit clock emulsion, the aura that continuously entered his meridians was also dispelling his fatigue, until the next morning, the sun rose slowly and fell on Qin Feng's body through the gaps in the leaves. As the breeze blew past, Qin Feng, who was dressed in a rosy light, fluttered his clothes, showing the demeanor of a strong swordsman. Boom! Suddenly, Qin Feng's body erupted an astonishing wave of spiritual energy, gushing out of his body like a clear spring. A wave of spiritual energy, mixed with sword energy, spread around him, centered on him. Qin Feng's slightly drooping eyes slowly opened. Ninth Heaven of Condensation Realm. This cultivation speed is too fast, that he couldn't help exclaiming. He knew that the cultivation speed of Primordial Chaos Sword Body must be very fast, but he did not expect it to be so fast. The realms above the Eternal Continent are divided into Quenching Body, Condensing Yuan, Hualing, Luanhai, Zifu, Refining Void. The gap between each big realm is like a galaxy. There is no possibility of crossing at all, and there is even a huge gap between every small realm. It is extremely difficult to improve the realm. Qin Feng was only at the 6th level of the Yuan condensation realm before. After a day and a night of practice, his realm has reached the 9th heaven of the condensation realm. This speed of cultivation is simply terrifying. Even the top geniuses of the great Xia dynasty definitely did not have such a speed of cultivation. Moreover, Qin Feng was surprised to find that after practicing for so long, he only absorbed a very small part of the earth spirit bell emulsion that he swallowed yesterday, and there was still a lot that he hadn't absorbed. This drop of milky white liquid contains such a majestic aura. There is so much in one bottle. When will it be enough for me to absorb it? Qin Feng couldn't help sighing. He shook his head, and then started today's check-in. Ding! Congratulations to the master, you have successfully signed in and obtained 10 Yangshan pills. That there was no emotional fluctuation in the system, and a mechanical voice appeared in Qin Feng's mind. After looking at the effects of the Yangshan pill, he found that it was a kind of pill that could restore spiritual consciousness, and he didn't need it for the time being, so he put it away. Afterwards, Qin Feng got up to find some dry food, planning to continue his cultivation after eating and resting for a while. In this cruel world where the strong are respected and monsters and demons are rampant, only one's own realm can represent everything. Although Qin Feng's physique against the sky can definitely help him regain the position of prince and leave this imperial tomb, but he had no such plans, because walking out of the Imperial Mausoleum would not bring him any benefits. It would only increase various tedious matters. On the contrary, continuing to stay here and improving his cultivation is what Qin Feng is most willing to do. Chapter 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Time flies by, and 3 years have passed in a blink of an eye. During these 3 years, the outside world was all looking for the baby with the peerless sword body, but they didn't find anything, so they had no choice but to give up in the end. But Qin Feng in the Imperial Mausoleum did not leave a step. I have been practicing and signing in, and I have won a lot of rewards. Ding! Congratulations to the master, you have successfully signed in, and you have obtained Wanjian to return to the sect. Ding! Congratulations to the master, you have successfully signed in and obtained the sword intent of the wind. Ding! Congratulations to the master, you signed in successfully and got a bottle of earth spirit bell lotion. Although the grades of these rewards cannot be compared with the Primordial Chaos Sword Body, they are not bad either. For various rewards, if it is a martial skill, Qin Feng will learn it directly. If it's pills and the like, he will eat those that can improve his cultivation, and put them all in the system space if they can't. During this period, except for someone who regularly delivered dry food to him, no one else came. It was as if he had been forgotten by the world. Your Highness, can you return these dry rations to the previous room? A huge, strong imperial forest soldier like a black bear came to deliver dry food to Qin Feng according to the date, and said respectfully. His name was Chu Xiong, and he was the one who came to deliver dry food over the years. Ah! Qin Feng, who was meditating, nodded. Now that he is already at the first level of Luanhai realm, it stands to reason that it doesn't matter if he eats or not, but in order not to make people suspicious, he still received the dry food normally, and then fed the dry food to various birds. Over time, many birds' nests have been built on the trees here, and the silence is no longer so dead. Your Highness, how about I help you build a stove here? These dry foods are always eaten dry, which is not good for your health. Chu Xiong couldn't help but said, this is the Imperial Mausoleum, so it was impossible to have a stove in the past, but he could find a way to help Qin Feng build one. If you build a stove for me, you won't be afraid of being known and implicated. Hearing this, Qin Feng couldn't help asking with a smile. Huh? This? Chu Xiong scratched his head, smiled a little honestly and said, why are you implicated? He obviously didn't understand it, so he just helped to build a stove. Is this something wrong? He didn't even understand why the other Imperial Forest Army avoided them, and they didn't want to come to deliver dry food to Qin Feng, because they were afraid of getting involved with Qin Feng. Fine. Qin Feng didn't explain too much, but said slowly, anyway, I'm too lazy to cook, and these dry foods are pretty good. Chu Xiong nodded thoughtfully, and after putting the dry food into the room, he didn't stay here any longer, turned and left. Qin Feng lowered his eyes slightly and continued to practice. In the middle of the night, night falls in the sky, the bright moon hangs high, and the stars are dotted. Kindness. Suddenly Qin Feng slowly opened his eyes, frowning slightly. There seems to be something strange in the night tonight. As the night darkened, two dark shadows quietly entered the Imperial tomb. The entire palace is under the protection of the formation. Outsiders do not have tokens and cannot enter the palace at all. These two guys are obviously not from inside the palace. They were mysterious and looked around. As expected of the Imperial Mausoleum of Emperor Taizu of the Great Xia dynasty. He has been dead for so many years, and the yang energy in his body can actually suppress the yin energy that emanates from him. One of the old eunuchs with a male duck voice couldn't help sighing. The entire Imperial Palace covers a huge area, almost occupying half of the entire Imperial city. The place where he usually stays is far away from the Imperial Mausoleum, and this is the first time he has come here. Under normal circumstances, after a person dies, they will emit yin qi. The stronger the cultivation base, the stronger the yin energy will be. However, the supreme yang energy emanating from the corpse of the Taizu Emperor can suppress the yin energy all the time, which is very rare, which proves that the physique of the Taizu Emperor is absolutely extraordinary. Hey, as long as we release the yin energy in the magic accumulation bead, let the yin energy here surpass the yang energy, destroy the general situation of the mountains and rivers here, and then spread to the entire palace. At that time, the luck of the entire Great Xia dynasty will be affected. Another man in black said with great excitement. He was adopted by the elders of the Nanman clan since he was a child. Although he is a member of the Great Xia dynasty, he is actually loyal to the Nanman clan as long as they destroy the luck of the Great Xia dynasty. This caused turmoil in the Great Xia dynasty, and when the time comes, their southern barbarians can annex and erode the southern territory of the Great Xia dynasty without any worries. However, the man in black suddenly thought of something, and asked in a deep voice, by the way, are you sure that the Imperial tomb is only guarded by the Imperial Forest Army at the entrance, and there are no strong people inside? As a chef, he has just entered the palace for 3 months and is not familiar with the whole palace. Don't worry. There is only a deposed prince here, and his cultivation is only in the Yuan condensation realm. He can't find us. The old eunuch said dismissively. Both of them are at the 7th level of the spirit transformation realm. The other man in black nodded upon hearing this. They went on a little further inside, then the old eunuch took out a bead from the ring, whole body dark. It is the Yun Maju, can absorb and release yin qi. But at this moment, behind the old eunuch and the others, a calm voice suddenly sounded. You two came to my place at night without even saying hello. Isn't it a bit too much? Hearing this sound, the old eunuch and the two of them instantly stiffened, and their faces instantly became extremely ugly. Could it be that some strong man in the palace discovered them? If this is the case, they will be miserable. The two of them are only at the 7th level of the spirit transformation realm, and in this palace, there are more than 10 royal priests from the 9th level of the Luanhai realm, all of whom are extremely powerful, coupled with the existence of the startling dragon array. Once the two of them are discovered, they will surely die. However, when these two people turned around slowly, they couldn't help being taken aback when they saw a young man standing behind them. You are the abolished Prince Qin Feng, the old eunuch said in surprise. He thought it was the royal priest who came out to wander around one night and found the two of them, but he never thought that the one who found them was actually the abandoned Prince Qin Feng. Seeing me, you two seem very disappointed. Qin Feng said lightly, if you want to let the Imperial Forest Army come over, I don't mind helping. Humph. Shocked me, that the old eunuch snorted coldly, with a look of sternness in his eyes, and said, I didn't intend to kill you, but you idiot came out to seek death by yourself, then don't blame us for being cruel. Although it would be troublesome to kill Qin Feng, they just walked away. As he spoke, an astonishing wave of spiritual energy emanated from his body, and he took a step forward at an extremely fast speed, and raised his hand to grab Qin Feng's throat. The shot is extremely ruthless. To one-hit kill. Don't worry, you can talk slowly if you have anything to say. Seeing that the old eunuch was about to kill him, Qin Feng said calmly, while speaking, a terrifying coercion was released from his body. Thump. The old eunuch who rushed towards Qin Feng suddenly knelt on the ground like a mountain. Not only that, but the other man in black couldn't bear the terrible coercion, and knelt on the ground. His knees were broken. Qin Feng was already at the first level of the Luanhai realm, and the gap between different realms was simply a world of difference. He didn't need to make a move, and the coercion on his body was unbearable for the two old eunuchs. Chapter 4-7 Emperor Uncle Prince Mu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. You, how could you be so strong? That these two people were all shocked, and their voices were trembling. How old is Qin Feng? Even if the talent is monstrous, it's impossible to be at the Luanhai realm. Are they dreaming? Tell me obediently, what is the purpose of your coming here? Qin Feng said lightly. If I tell you everything, can you spare our lives? That the man in black kneeling on the ground in the distance, with fear in his eyes, negotiated terms. More than anything else, he just wants to survive. Are you negotiating terms with me? Qin Feng said coldly in his eyes. The moment the words fell, the coercion he exerted on the man in black suddenly intensified. Pfft. The man in black didn't even have time to make a scream, but was crushed into a blood mist by the terrible coercion. The scene was extremely bloody. The old eunuch turned pale with fright when he saw this scene. His Royal Highness, spare your life. Your Royal Highness, spare your life. He begged for mercy in horror. Speak. Qin Feng said lightly. The old eunuch quickly told Qin Feng his purpose. The southern barbarians. Qin Feng frowned slightly. He didn't expect these two people to be loyal to the Nanman clan. It was a naturally brave and aggressive tribe, located in the mountains in the south, and often plundered some cities in the south. Go to hell. But at this moment, the old eunuch made a move in shock and threw the magic bead towards Qin Feng. In an instant, an astonishing yin qi burst out from within the bead. What's more important is that this kind of yin energy has the effect of disturbing people's spiritual consciousness. The scene in front of Qin Feng suddenly changed and became a purgatory on earth. It is no longer in the Imperial Mausoleum, and there are corpses and bones everywhere. Illusion. Qin Feng looked at the surrounding scene and said coldly. An astonishing sword energy erupted in his body, and the sound of the sword's cry was pleasant. It was also the sound of the sword's cry that brought Qin Feng back to consciousness and woke up from the hallucination. However, when he opened his eyes, he found that the old eunuch had disappeared. So cowardly, why don't you kill me while I'm in the hallucination? He ran away. Qin Feng couldn't help complaining. If the old eunuch attacked him, the body-protecting sword energy outside his body would be enough to kill him back. His gaze turned to the direction in which the old eunuch was fleeing. Qin Feng used the sword energy to condense a transparent sword soul. With a slight movement of his mind, the sword soul immediately shot towards the direction where the old eunuch was fleeing. It also disappeared into the night in the blink of an eye. This is the return of swordsmanship, 10,000 swords, to the peak of cultivation, which can instantly condense hundreds of thousands of sword souls, and even a saint can't stand it. With one thought, you can move your sword thousands of miles. This is probably the chicness of a swordsman. Qin Feng murmured. He then set his gaze on the Yun Maozhu. After hesitating for a moment, he put it in the ring. Although this thing is an evil thing, he is not a pedantic righteous person, and he will destroy it when he sees an evil thing. Maybe one day I can use it for myself. Afterwards, Qin Feng continued to practice. The next morning, The square in front of a main hall was suddenly blocked by the royal forest army. The old eunuch ran for his life last night, but when he arrived here, he was caught up and killed by Qin Feng's sword soul. Emperor Xia just woke up when he received the news and rushed here. Your Majesty, this old eunuch shouldn't have appeared in this area of the palace. He probably wanted to sneak into some special place last night. A commander of the Royal Forest Army said in a deep voice, it's just his specific identity and purpose, which is difficult to investigate. The old eunuch was cautious by nature, and did not leave any information about his dealings with the Nanman clan, and he was not a member of the Nanman clan, so the commander of the Imperial Forest Army could not find out his identity and purpose at all. Bastard! Emperor Xia's face was extremely ugly. It was a great shame and humiliation for the majestic Great Xia Palace to be infiltrated by unknown people. The commander of the Imperial Forest Army was so frightened that he knelt on the ground and begged for punishment. Whoever killed him, why didn't he catch him alive and interrogate him strictly? Emperor Xia asked coldly. This. I don't know. The commander of the Imperial Forest Army said helplessly, when we found him, he was already killed. What did you say? When Emperor Xia heard this, his face became even angrier, and he said, it's fine for unknown people to sneak into the palace, but now you don't even know who killed him, a bunch of trash. The commander of the Royal Forest Army was so frightened that he asked for punishment again, but at this moment, an old man who was majoring in swordsmanship next to Emperor Xia had a horrified expression on his face. What a pure wind sword intent, that he couldn't help exclaiming, stretching out his hand from the old eunuch's wound, he squeezed out a nearly transparent sword energy. What did Mr. Chen say? Emperor Xia's cultivation was not considered strong, and he didn't practice swordsmanship, so it could only be seen that the old eunuch was killed by a sword, but he couldn't tell otherwise. A look of doubt. The person who made the shot, the swordsmanship attainments, I am afraid that it is far above me. Old Chen said solemnly, although he is already at the 9th level of the Luanhai realm, his swordsmanship and understanding are far from being comparable to Qin Feng, who is only at the 1st level of the Luanhai realm, but has the Primordial Chaos Sword Body. What are you talking about? You are the strongest swordsman in the palace, how can someone's swordsmanship attainments be higher than yours? Emperor Xia was shocked, his eyes filled with disbelief. Strong swordsmen are rare, and this old man is already the strongest swordsman enshrined by the royal family. The commander of the Imperial Forest Army and several ministers who heard the news also had shocked expressions on their faces when they heard Mr. Chen's words. Your Majesty may have forgotten that your uncle, Prince Mu, also majored in swordsmanship. Old Chen looked dignified, and said slowly, and his swordsmanship attainments are completely above mine. The places where the powerful members of the royal family retreat to death are all in the palace, because looking at the entire Great Xia dynasty, there is no place that is more abundant and safe than this aura. Uncle's 7th Emperor. Emperor Xia was taken aback, but then said, but when he was close to death, he had less than 30 years of life left. It has been 100 years now, how could he still be alive? Not only him, those few ministers are also suspicious. But apart from your 7th uncle, Prince Mu, there can be no other people. Chen Lao said slowly, because outside powerhouses can't enter the palace at all. This palace is protected by a powerful startling dragon formation, which was laid down by the powerhouses of the royal family before the Great Demon Sealing War and when the dynasty had not yet declined. Without permission, even a strong person in the Purple Mansion would definitely be discovered after entering the palace. The crowd was silent. I feel that this is indeed the case, and there are very few people in the royal family who major in swordsmanship. Except for Prince Mu, the others are farther back, and it is even more impossible. Old Chen's guess is that the possibility is the greatest. My Majesty, when I checked this morning, I heard a maid said that last night there was a ray of light flying over here from the northwest, which is exactly the direction where Prince Mu is retreating. The commander of the Royal Forest Army hurriedly said, dare not have any concealment. Hearing what he said, many ministers who had already believed him were all convinced immediately. It seems that Prince Mu is correct. Presumably his old man broke through his realm when his lifespan was approaching. This is my great summer blessing. That there was joy in everyone's eyes. When Prince Mu closed the death test, he was already at the 9th level of the Luanhai realm. If he broke through to the Purple Mansion realm, his lifespan would increase by at least 100 years. There is no problem at all. Emperor Xia was also delighted. Tens of thousands of years ago, the great dynasties joined forces to fight the demon sealing war, and lost countless powerful people, and the great Xia dynasty also declined day by day. Now their royal family has not been a strong man who has been out of the Zifu realm for many years, and all the offerings are from the 9th heaven of the Luanhai realm. How could he be unhappy now that his 7th emperor's uncle, Prince Mu, had broken through to the Purple Mansion realm? In the future, when he faced those aristocratic families in the dynasty, he would have more confidence. Decree, I want to sacrifice to God and pardon the world, Emperor Xia said immediately. He wanted to let everyone in the world know that the royal family now has a strong man in the Purple Mansion. According to the order. Several ministers all said respectfully. Immediately started to get busy. On the other hand, Emperor Xia hurriedly went to the pavilion where Prince Mu was retreating, wanting to pay a visit, but in the end, he returned without success. Whatever he said outside the pavilion, Prince Mu just didn't respond. In the end, Emperor Xia had no choice but to leave. This kind of palace where the royal powerhouse retreats is protected by formations to prevent people from breaking in and disturbing their cultivation, causing unpredictable consequences. Although he had a way to force his way in, he didn't dare, for fear of offending Prince Mu. Chapter 5 Brother Huang, are you crazy? You are listening at novelfull.audio. The great Xia dynasty had a vast territory. There are tens of billions of people. However, the news of the emergence of a strong man in the Purple Mansion in the royal family spread throughout the great Xia dynasty through various means in just 3 days. In addition to the royal family's contribution to the flames, it was also because the news was too shocking. After all, after the great demon sealing war 10,000 years ago, all the royal families and powerful sects have declined rapidly. It has been an unknown number of years, and there has not been a strong person in the Purple Mansion realm. For a while, many aristocratic clans who had already discussed not to pay tribute, after hearing the news, immediately kept a low profile. At this time, Qin Feng naturally didn't know that his sword would cause such a big effect, but even if he knew, he wouldn't care at all. He has only one goal now, which is to improve his cultivation. At the very least, we must first ensure that we can be invincible in the great Xia dynasty. Think about other things slowly. Time is like water, passing quickly. Another 3 years passed by in a hurry. Night falls in the sky, the bright moon hangs high, and the stars are dotted. Boom boom. Qin Feng, who was sitting cross-legged under the ancient tree, was practicing, when an astonishing aura burst out from his body. The sound was deafening. Around his body, sword energy lingered, and there were a lot of sword marks on the ground in an instant. Even the trees in the distance were cut off in the middle. Luanhai realm 9th heaven, it's not bad. Qin Feng muttered to himself. Compared with before, the speed at which his state is improving now has obviously dropped a lot, but this is also normal. The higher the realm, the more difficult it will be to advance. If Qin Feng's words were heard by those old antiques in the royal family, they would definitely vomit blood depressedly. Many of them devoted their entire lives to cultivation, and barely reached the 9th level of Luanhai realm. Qin Feng only spent 6 short years, and in his words, he just felt that it's not bad, it's just humiliating to them. Afterwards, Qin Feng continued to meditate and began to adjust his breath to prevent the emptiness of spiritual energy. The process is slow. It will take about 2 months. In the early morning of the next day, morning had just ended. Qin Zhonyan, the new crown prince who just returned from inspection tour, was extremely joyful and happy. Teacher, royal father finally allowed me to visit Brother Huang. Qin Zhonyan happily said to the Wenyuan's University scholar. He and Qin Feng are brothers of the same father and mother, and they have always had a very good relationship. Ever since Qin Feng was imprisoned in the Huangling Mausoleum, he has been worried day and night. The prince is going here, but he must bring the Imperial Forest Army with him, that the scholar of Wenyuan Pavilion said slowly. Why? Qin Zhonyan asked puzzledly. His Royal Highness Qin Feng must be extremely resentful at being deposed as the crown prince. Now that he sees you as the new crown prince, he will definitely feel jealous and vent his anger on you. The Grand Scholar of Wenyuan Pavilion said solemnly, if you don't bring the Imperial Forest Army with you, I'm afraid it will be dangerous. In fact, he has always disapproved of Qin Zhonyan going to the Imperial Mausoleum to visit Qin Feng, but Qin Zhonyan insisted on going, and he had no choice. Impossible. My brother is the best to me, how could he hurt me? Qin Zhonyan said, his mother passed away very early, so it can be said that Qin Feng and him depended on each other for life. Hey! Your Highness is still too young. In the past dynasties, which prince who was abolished couldn't bear the huge blow and went crazy? No matter how good your relationship is with your Highness Qin Feng, after learning that you have become the crown prince, you will definitely have resentment towards you. The other two ministers sent by Emperor Xia to assist the crown prince also spoke out, in their hearts, there is no difference between Qin Feng and other deposed princes. I don't believe it, Brother Huang is definitely not that kind of person. Qin Zhonyan said, he strode towards the Imperial Mausoleum with big strides, not intending to bring the Imperial Forest Army with him at all. His Royal Highness. His Royal Highness, seeing this, the Wenyuan's University scholars and the others immediately became anxious, they hurriedly went to the commander of the Imperial Forest Army, the scorching sun scorched the earth, and the temperature distorted the vision. The stray animals and birds abandoned by the concubines in the imperial tomb were listless. I remember that Chu Xiong sent ice cubes, right? Qin Feng on the reclining chair muttered to himself, although his current cultivation base doesn't feel hot, but if he doesn't eat something cold in summer, he always feels that something is missing. Thinking of this, he slowly got up, walked into the room, and took out a large piece of ice from a box carved with patterns. After crushing it with a sword light, it was thrown to those little animals that were too hot. When the little animals saw the crushed ice, they were all excited, and rushed forward one after another, and began to grab food, and it was extremely lively in an instant. Kindness. Qin Feng suddenly noticed the entrance to the Imperial Mausoleum. A figure came in. The new prince. Originally, Qin Feng was curious about who the other party was, but when he saw the clothes on that person, he immediately understood. The other party is the new crown prince. From Chu Xiong's mouth, Qin Feng knew who the new crown prince was, his third younger brother Qin Zhonyan. Because the second brother has southern barbarian blood, it is impossible for him to be crowned prince, so after Qin Feng was abolished, the third prince, Qin Zhonyan, should be the only one. Brother Huang, are you not crazy? Seeing Qin Feng, Qin Zhonyan asked with concern in his eyes. He looked Qin Feng up and down to see if Qin Feng was normal. For a moment, Qin Feng didn't know whether the other party was scolding or caring about himself, and said, why do you ask that? Seeing that Qin Feng understood his question and was in a normal mood, Qin Zhonyan was relieved. He said, before I came, the teacher and the others told me that Brother Huang must have gone crazy long ago after being imprisoned here for many years. Please let me be careful not to be hurt by you. Qin Feng was speechless when he heard this. His Royal Highness. His Royal Highness. And at this time, the Wenyuan's grand scholars and the commander of the Imperial Forest Army had already arrived in the Imperial Tomb. Everyone was very worried that Qin Zhonyan was hurt by Qin Feng, and when they entered the Imperial Mausoleum, they were all a little dazed when they saw the extremely normal Qin Feng in front of them. How can this Qin Feng look a little crazy? There wasn't even a hint of despair, and he looked calm and indifferent, not like a waste prince at all. On the contrary, it was themselves, each in a hurry, like a clown. Everyone, what's the matter? Looking at the grand scholars of Wenyuan Pavilion and the others, Qin Feng said indifferently. We are here to visit His Highness. Yes, to visit His Highness. Wenyuan's University and the others were at a loss for words for a while, and quickly thought of a reason. That's it. Qin Feng smiled and said, just put the gift in the room. Wenyuan's University scholars and the others all had incomparably wonderful expressions when they heard the words, how can they have gifts? But they have already opened their mouths, saying that they are here to visit Qin Feng. If they don't even bring presents, they don't think Qin Feng, the prince, is in their eyes. If the people of Jinui knew about this and reported it to Emperor Xia, they would have no good fruit to eat. After a moment of silence, the grand scholars of Wenyuan Pavilion and the others looked at each other, and silently went to the next room. Some of them put down the jade fingers on their bodies, and some put down their favorite yurui. The Wenyuan's university scholars and others are all practitioners, and the fingers and jade ruis they carry with them are all equipped with the spirit gathering array, which is very valuable. After they came out of the room, they were so distressed that they were bleeding. No more. Seeing everyone's distressed faces, Qin Feng just said lightly, Wenyuan's university scholars and the others could only respectfully say goodbye when they heard the words. When they walked out of the Imperial Mausoleum, they were so distressed that they almost fainted. That's right, they are all princes now. At this time, Qin Feng's gaze returned to Qin Zhonyan, and he said, I don't have any presents to give you. I carved this little wooden sword. Give it to you. As he spoke, he casually handed a small wooden sword like a pendant to Qin Zhonyan. This was engraved when he was relaxing while practicing, and when he handed it to Qin Zhonyan, he injected a wisp of sword intent into it. If Qin Zhonyan really valued his elder brother, it would be very beneficial for Qin Zhonyan to practice swordsmanship if he carried him with him. Thank you, brother. Although it was just an ordinary small wooden sword, Qin Zhonyan was very happy, even happier than when he received any gift when he just became the crown prince. Afterwards, Qin Zhonyan chatted with Qin Feng about many things, concerned about how Qin Feng was doing here, and whether anyone made things difficult for him on purpose. Qin Feng comforted him that he had a good time here. This made Qin Zhonyan's worried heart relax a little. It was around evening when Qin Zhonyan got up to leave the Imperial Mausoleum. Brother Huang, don't worry, I will definitely ask Father Huang to let him release you. Qin Zhonyan said seriously before leaving, this is his imperial brother, always will be, even if he is the prince now, he will never forget how kind this emperor brother once was to him. If a person is ruthless, he is no different from a demon. When Qin Zhonyan asked Emperor Xia to let him go out, Qin Feng didn't take it seriously, because he knew that it was impossible for Emperor Xia to let him leave the Imperial Mausoleum. You have no jokes. After the imperial decree has been issued, if Qin Feng is allowed to leave the imperial tomb, wouldn't that be a slap in the face? I should also go to the palace and other places to check in. After sending Qin Zhonyan away, Qin Feng stretched his waist, watched the night gradually fall, and muttered to himself, now that he is already at the 9th level of the Luanhai realm, the Imperial Forest Army patrolling around the outermost part of Taizu's Imperial Mausoleum is useless to him. Where are you going? Walking on the palace wall like walking on flat ground, Qin Feng muttered to himself. After hesitating for a while, Qin Feng decided to go to Zangshu Pavilion to have a look. Relatively speaking, it is considered a special place, and it is estimated that good things can be signed. Walking in the palace, Qin Feng had a calm expression on his face. Not only was he not worried about the Imperial Forest Army, but he was also not worried about those strong men hiding in the dark. His Primordial Chaos Sword Body can completely restrain the aura. The spiritual consciousness of those strong people not only can't see his cultivation, but also can't feel his aura at all. To those strong men, he is like air. Not long after, Qin Feng arrived at Zangshu Pavilion. This is a simple 3-story building, exuding the atmosphere of the years. Snoring. At the door of Zangshu Pavilion, there was an old man sitting on the ground, sleeping with his head down. He is the person in charge of guarding the library. It's actually the 9th heaven of the Luanhai realm. Qin Feng was surprised. According to previous memories, this old man was a servant who once served the late emperor. After the late emperor passed away, he came to guard the Sutra Pavilion. He has been unknown and no one cares about him. Qin Feng did not expect that he was actually a cultivation base of the 9th level of Luanhai realm. In this palace, it really is crouching tiger, hidden dragon. Qin Feng murmured, but he didn't care, and strode into the library. When he passed by the old man didn't react at all, he couldn't feel it at all. Chapter 6. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As soon as he entered the Zangshu Pavilion, Qin Feng could smell the fragrance of ink, which did not dissipate due to the years. Various martial arts and martial arts of the royal family are stored here. On weekdays, except for members of the royal family, outsiders are not allowed to enter at all. Let's see if there are any good books in this library first. Qin Feng muttered to himself. He had read many novels in his previous life. Those protagonists are in the library. Just read a book. They are all peerless martial arts. He also wanted to see if he had the life to be the protagonist. Afterwards, Qin Feng flipped through the books, not letting go of any of them. for fear that there might be some parchment inside. However, the ideal is beautiful, but the reality is cruel. He read many books, but they were all very common exercises and martial arts, none of which he could use, let alone any peerless exercises. Forget it, someone as handsome as me really won't be the protagonist. Qin Feng shook his head helplessly. After all, readers don't have a sense of substitution for the ugly protagonist. He put the book in his hand back on the shelf, and then called the system. System, help me sign in at Sangshu Pavilion. Qin Feng said lightly. Ding. Congratulations, Master, you have successfully signed in at the Imperial Palace Collection Pavilion, and you will be rewarded with the Longevity Sutra. Soon, the system's emotionless voice rang in Qin Feng's ears. Longevity Sutra. Qin Feng heard the words, and murmured, is it a cultivation technique? He is currently lacking a book of exercises, although the royal family's skills are good, compared with his Primordial Chaos Sword Body, it is still far behind. If there is a powerful exercise, his cultivation speed will definitely be greatly improved. With doubts in his heart, Qin Feng checked the information of the Longevity Sutra. Longevity Sutra. This is an ancient scripture created by the ancient great emperor. After reaching the peak of cultivation, you don't need to practice hard. Even if you sleep, the exercises can automatically operate to absorb the spiritual energy in all things and improve your cultivation. Seeing the introduction about the Longevity Sutra, Qin Feng called it a good guy. This ancient emperor who created the Longevity Sutra is too good at playing, right? Qin Feng couldn't help complaining, others put this hard work, why don't you put this health care? However, although he couldn't help complaining, he was still very satisfied with the longevity scripture. After all, sleeping can also improve one's cultivation. Who wouldn't want such a skill? After signing in, Qin Feng didn't stay here either, turned around and left. On the way back, Qin Feng was walking on the palace wall, but suddenly he cast his gaze in the direction of the Demon Town Tower. Why do you seem to see a ghost of a woman? Qin Feng frowned slightly. If he felt something just now, he felt that there was some movement in the demon-suppressing tower. For a moment, he seemed to see a faint phantom of a woman in white at the demon-suppressing tower. Could it be a ghost? Qin Feng suddenly felt a chill down his back and was a little scared. He is most afraid of ghosts, especially the kind of female ghosts in white clothes with good looks and hot body. No, for the safety of the palace, I want to go and have a look. Qin Feng muttered to himself. With that in mind, he walked towards the Demon Town Tower. It didn't take long to reach a place hundreds of feet away from the Jinyao Tower, and he could clearly see the situation on the other side of the Jinyao Tower. However, Qin Feng was a little disappointed. Although there was a lot of demonic energy in the Jinyao Pagoda, ghosts and wolves could be heard when they got close, but after all, there was royal luck to suppress it, so everything was normal. Not even a human figure, let alone a hot female ghost. Qin Feng shook his head in disappointment. He didn't come any closer, because the killing array on the side of the Demon Town Tower is extraordinarily powerful, and anyone who gets close will be shot to death. Qin Feng reckoned that only after reaching the third level or above of the Purple Mansion realm can he be truly fearless of the killing array. At the same time, the old man in front of the Zangshu Pavilion seemed to hear the slight animal cry, and slowly opened his cloudy eyes, but the cry disappeared again. Which concubine's cat and dog ran out again? The old man shook his head and didn't care. He got up and was about to close the door of the library, so as not to have cats and dogs running in. However, as soon as he got up and looked into the library pavilion, he was stunned. Several of the books that were originally neatly placed were randomly placed on the bookshelf, obviously being read by someone. How is it possible? The old man's voice was trembling, his eyes were full of disbelief. Someone unexpectedly entered the Zangshu Pavilion in front of his face, but he didn't notice it at all. What kind of cultivation would that person be? When did such a strong man appear in the palace? Could it be Prince Mu? The old man muttered to himself. But why did Prince Mu come here to review these martial arts? He was very puzzled. Prince Mu is now at the Purple Mansion realm, so the exercises and martial arts here are completely useless. With this doubt in his heart, he decided to report this matter to Emperor Xia. At this time, Emperor Xia was furious. Qin Zhongyan was kneeling in the imperial study, being scolded. You are the current crown prince, and you plead for mercy for the former crown prince. It's absurd. It's extremely absurd, Emperor Xia said angrily. You are so merciful, how can you assume a high position in the future? He simply hates iron but not steel. If after Qin Zhonyan became the crown prince, in order to keep his position as the crown prince, he designed to kill Qin Feng so as to avoid future troubles, he would not be so angry after knowing about it, because he felt that this should be the skill that a future emperor should have. But now, Qin Zhonyan was actually begging him to forgive Qin Feng, which made him feel that his son was too soft-hearted. Qin Zhonyan was reprimanded and wanted to refute, but hesitated for a while. Instead of defending himself, he asked, then how can the father release the emperor brother? That he did not give up begging for mercy. When Emperor Xia saw that he still did not give up, his face became even more livid. He asked Qin Zhonyan to go to the Imperial Mausoleum. He originally wanted Qin Zhonyan to keep vigilant, but he didn't expect that Qin Zhonyan hadn't changed in any way compared to before. But at this moment, the old man who guarded the Sutra Pavilion stepped in. This was a privilege given to him by the Emperor Xia. Except for the harem, he could enter anywhere without an invitation. Old Su, why are you here? Emperor Xia said in surprise. This old man has been at the Sutra Pavilion all along, and I haven't seen him for many years. Elder Su saluted slightly, and then told what happened tonight. Uncle's seventh emperor came out, Emperor Xia said in amazement. The last time he went to visit Prince Mu's death retreat, the other party had no intention of paying attention to him at all, and there was no movement in the closed pavilion. I didn't expect it to come out today, he immediately said. Old Su, from now on, whenever Uncle's seventh emperor wants to go to Zangshu Pavilion, don't stop him. Mr. Su agreed with a wry smile. He will be able to stop it too. At first he wondered if it was Prince Mu, but seeing Emperor Xia's determination, he didn't say anything, and then left. Don't you want your elder brother to come out? Emperor Xia glanced at Qin Zhonyan, and said calmly, whenever Uncle's seventh emperor speaks, I will let him out. When Qin Zhonyan heard the words, he immediately had a bitter expression on his face. How could he have the ability to ask Prince Mu to speak to Qin Feng? He had no choice but to leave the Imperial study room. Chapter 7. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the next 3 years, besides the Imperial Mausoleum, Qin Feng signed in many more places, also got a lot of treasures. Ding! Congratulations, Master, you have successfully signed in at Zangshu Pavilion and won 10 Zifu pills. Ding! Congratulations, Master, you have successfully signed in at the Arms Pavilion and obtained the Desolate Meteor Severing God / Ding! Congratulations, Master, you have successfully signed in at the Pill Hall and obtained the Bone Spirit Lenghuo. Whether it's pills or swordsmanship, the grades are very good, just what Qin Feng needs, and he is very satisfied. In the past few years, Qin Feng's cultivation speed has also been very fast. Many people would never be able to cross the barrier between the Luanhai Realm 9 Heavens and the Purple Mansion Realm. Old Chen next to Emperor Xia was extremely talented, and he stepped into the 9th heaven of Luanhai Realm at a young age, shocking the whole world, but he was trapped in the Luanhai Realm of 9 Heavens for 150 years, and he still failed to break through to the Purple Mansion Realm, which is embarrassing, and Qin Feng is a little bit stronger than the others. In a year and a half, he broke through from the 9th level of Luanhai Realm to the 1st level of Zifu Realm, and in the next year and a half, he ate pills like jelly beans, coupled with the astonishing speed of absorbing spiritual energy from the Longevity Sutra. He broke through to the 3rd layer of the Purple Mansion Realm in one fell swoop. The speed can be called a monster. If it spreads out, it will amaze the world. During this period, Qin Zhonyan would come to the Imperial Mausoleum almost every year to chat with Qin Feng and talk about what happened outside. There are even many important national affairs, and Qin Feng is also asked. Qin Feng seldom answered this question, because he was afraid that if he was not careful, he would take this dynasty on an unimagined path. Just tell him to put people first. When Qin Zhonyan didn't come, Chu Xiong would occasionally come when he was not delivering meals, give Qin Feng some delicious chicken, duck and fish. In this way, Qin Feng doesn't have to eat dry food all the time. Reciprocating, Qin Feng always inadvertently taught Chu Xiong some martial arts knowledge while talking. Although Chu Xiong didn't practice swordsmanship, Qin Feng was already in the Purple Mansion Realm, so he would benefit a lot from just giving him some knowledge of martial arts. His cultivation has improved all the way, and he has gradually been valued among the Imperial Forest Army. It's just that no one knew that it was related to Qin Feng. Even Chu Xiong himself didn't know. One morning, while Qin Feng was practicing, he suddenly sensed that at the end of the Bluestone Road, there was a little girl about 9 years old walking on the Bluestone Road, looking around. She seemed a little scared. The maids who served her were not allowed to enter the imperial tomb, and they all waited respectfully outside. Not long after, the little girl saw Qin Feng and hurried forward. Zi Ning pays homage to the emperor's uncle. The little girl was a little shy, but she still saluted respectfully. She looks cute, with big eyes blinking like a porcelain doll. Uncle? Qin Feng was startled. He's already an uncle? He asked in amazement. Who is your father? My father is the prince. The little girl quickly replied, recently, there are frequent demon cultivators in the world, and my father is out to inspect the states and counties. I am afraid that the emperor will be bored by himself, so I ask Zi Ning to come and chat with the emperor often. Qin Feng was a little dumbfounded when he heard this. He said helplessly, your father asked you to chat with me often, so you are not afraid of delaying your cultivation. That when I was young, it was time to lay the foundation, and the royal family would give unified lectures to all the princes. If Qin Zining came here often, it would definitely delay her studies there. I don't want to learn to practice. Hearing Qin Feng's words, Qin Zining immediately showed an unhappy expression. What happened? Qin Feng was puzzled. In this world, no matter whether it is a boy or a girl, there is almost no one who does not want to practice, because a strong realm means a longer lifespan and a greater possibility of survival. Even members of the royal family are no exception. I'm too stupid. I haven't learned the basic exercises taught by the teacher for 2 years, and other brothers and sisters always make fun of me. Qin Zining's big eyes were full of grievances. Haven't learned it for 2 years. It shouldn't be. Qin Feng was even more puzzled. The basic exercises taught by the royal family are not particularly difficult. In addition, the teachers invited are also powerful practitioners. Under their teaching, it is impossible not to learn the basic exercises in 2 years. The teacher said that my bones are not good and I am not suitable for cultivation. The other royal brothers and sisters also said that I am a useless person. When I grow up, my destiny is to be married to the southern barbarians. I will never go back to the imperial city for the rest of my life. When Qin Zining said this, tears even flowed from her beautiful eyes. She was born in the imperial city, but she had to go far away to marry a southern barbarian leader she had never seen before. This kind of cruel future was really terrible for a child like her. Even if her father ascends the throne in the future, he will not be able to stop the fate of sending a useless princess like her to marry him, because it is impossible for the royal family to give a cultivation genius to the barbarians. The Minister of Civil and Military Affairs will not agree. Not suitable for cultivation. Qin Feng used his spiritual sense to examine Qin Zining carefully, and found that her meridians were naturally damaged. This kind of damage to the meridian, looking at the entire Great Xia dynasty, no one can solve it. Except for him, of course. Qin Feng rubbed Qin Zining's little head, and said with a light smile, Zi Ning is so big, and she still cries, and she will be laughed at. You wait here for a while, and Uncle Huang will cook something delicious for you. With that said, he slowly got up. Uncle Huang can cook. Children crying, as long as there is a new topic, it will stop immediately, Qin Zining said with eyes wide open. That's natural. Qin Feng said with a smile. I'll help Uncle Huang light the fire. Qin Zining likes to play with fire the most, but her father would not let her do it on weekdays, and now she is happy to come to the stove. This was built by Chu Xiong and Qin Feng. Boom. After Qin Zining spent a long time, the stove was finally lit, and Qin Feng also started cooking. In his previous life, he often liked to watch food shows, and the food he cooked was very similar to his previous life: stewed chicken with ambergris mushroom and poria porridge. Shandong, Sichuan, Guangdong, Fujian, 8 major cuisines, all of which are available. Although the medicinal effects of these spirit pills and spirit herbs were astonishing, Qin Zining's current body could not bear it at all. But Qin Feng was not worried at all. During this period of time, he signed in the Imperial Alchemy Hall. in addition to ancient bone spirit cold fire and various rare elixir, there are also many books on alchemy, for example, The Affair of a Young Alchemist. How should a new pharmacist overthrow the training? A third-level pharmacist, teach you the shortest time to revive a man's glory. In this incomparably profound ancient book, Qin Feng forgot to sleep and eat, and learned many alchemy mysteries that have been lost. Now he is already a top alchemist. The unmatched attainments in alchemy, coupled with the tempering of the bone spirit, the effects of these spirit herbs and elixirs will not erupt all at once after they enter Qin Feng's body. Instead, like a mountain stream, it flows slowly, inadvertently nourishing Qin Feng's meridians. Not only that, because all these were tempered by Qin Feng using the special flame of bone spirit cold fire, even the highest-ranked pharmacist in the Royal Alchemy Hall came to check Qin Feng's body in person. She couldn't even find out that she had taken so many pills and rare spirit herbs. After cooking the meal, Qin Feng, who was so disgraced by the fire, was already starving, and started to eat voraciously. Uncle Huang's cooking is delicious, that she was surprised to find that the rice cooked by Qin Feng tasted so good. Not only is the method novel, but she has never seen it before. The taste is even hundreds of times better than the marrow washing pill that the royal family only distributes once a month. You know, now she can only watch other royal brothers and sisters eat the marrow washing pill, and she is not qualified to receive it at all. Chapter 8. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Time is like water, passing by inadvertently. During these 5 years, Qin Feng's damaged meridians have already healed, but she completely stopped studying and practicing. It was a big deal for the prince's child not to study and cultivate, but because she knew that her meridians were naturally damaged, no one forced her. The princess who is destined to be sent to be married, even if she has no martial arts achievements, it will not have any influence. Qin Feng, who was not in class, came to chat with Qin Feng every now and then, wanting to hear the magnificent stories Qin Feng told. 30 years in Heshi, 30 years in Hedong. Don't bully the young and poor blood. In the 13th year of Apocalypse, revenge began with a reign in Weicheng. Of course, there is also the regret of not being able to stay with my beloved because of hating the sky and taking me for 1 year. Qin Feng listened to all of them with gusto. Originally Qin Feng was just telling her for fun, but seeing that she liked to listen, he hid some martial arts secrets in the story and told her. In this way, Qin Feng's cultivation increased even faster. At only 13 years old, he has already been promoted to the 9th level of the Yuan condensation realm. Compared with those sisters and brothers who have just been in the 3rd or 4th level of the Yuan condensation realm, they are simply monstrous. You know, it took her 5 years to advance all the way from the body tempering realm to the 9th heaven condensing Yuan realm, surpassing the achievements of others in 15 or 16 years of cultivation. Uncle, I went to bed last night and couldn't sleep. The sound of waves and waves always appeared in my mind. This morning, I found that I had comprehended a set of sword techniques called De Sword Intent. Early in the morning, Qin Feng happily came to share with Qin Feng. She didn't know that it had something to do with Qin Feng. Because these inexplicable thoughts are all realized by myself. Yes, Ning is really talented. Qin Feng rubbed Qin Feng's little head and said with a smile. Afterwards, Qin Feng yelled, wanting to hear the story after Master Ascension to Heaven. Qin Feng also satisfied her and told her slowly, and so, another half a year passed. One morning, Qin Feng was preparing to go to the Imperial Mausoleum, but she was not allowed to go out, and was going to attend a court banquet in the evening. She can only agree. Soon, it was already night, and there was a big banquet in the palace, which was very lively. Today the envoys of the southern barbarians arrived. They came to pay tribute. Now is not the time to pay tribute, but this barbarian sent envoys to pay tribute, which made many civil and military ministers a little confused, but it can only be blocked by soldiers, and covered by water and soil. After the banquet, after singing and dancing, drink 3 rounds, a barbarian elder stood up. I've heard for a long time that martial arts were prosperous in the great Xia dynasty, and the royal family produced strong men in large numbers. The son of the patriarch of our clan traveled hundreds of thousands of miles to come here. I want to ask the princes to give me some advice. His attitude was respectful, but what was said in the words was very provocative. After his words fell, Shi Feng, the son of the barbarian patriarch, also stood up. Although he was only 15 years old, his muscles exploded, and his physical strength was astonishing. This is also characteristic of barbarians. As soon as this remark came out, everyone present had different expressions, and now they finally understood why the barbarians came to pay tribute. It turned out to be a provocative demonstration. Discussion voices sounded one after another. Your Majesty, I can't see his cultivation. He should have a secret treasure to protect him. Old Chen said with a serious face. His cultivation level of the 9th level of Luanhai realm couldn't see through the cultivation level of a 15-year-old child. No one would believe him if he told it. He concluded that Qin must have a secret treasure for protection. It seems that they came prepared, Emperor Xia said with a gloomy face. I don't know if there is any prince who is willing to take the initiative to come out and give me some advice. Qin looked around, and the provocative intent became even stronger. Immediately, the prince could not help but stand up. I'm here to fight you. The son of the 6th prince said coldly. He is the same age as Qin. Since he thinks he enjoys such a wealth of cultivation resources, Qin's is simply impossible to be his opponent. Second heaven of condensation realm. Are you kidding me? Qin said with a look of disdain. You, arrogant. Seeing that Qin looked down on him so much, the 6th prince's son was furious, and he drew his saber to kill Qin. The fierce sword light was so bright that many ministers couldn't help but nodded when they saw it. This trick is very powerful. When Qin saw this, he dismissed it. Roll! Qin shouted angrily, and thunder and lightning surged above his fist, and he punched out fiercely. Crack! The long knife in the hands of the 6th prince's son was shattered by the smash. Qin's fist did not lose a single bit, and continued to smash towards the shoulder of the 6th prince's son. Boom! The 6th prince's son was directly thrown flying. The ground was smashed until cracks appeared, and blood was vomited from the mouth. His face was full of disbelief. They were the same age, yet he was defeated with one punch. What? Bold! The ministers were shocked, and they stood up and reprimanded Qin angrily, especially the 6th prince, whose face was extremely ugly, hurried to help his son up, and fed him a pill. Some imperial forest troops also moved after hearing the news. However, Qin has a calm face. Sorry, I made a heavy shot just now. Qin cupped his hands and said to Emperor Xia, facing Daxia's prince, I dare not have any spare strength. Emperor Xia's face was ashen. It was literally slapping him in the face, but he couldn't really punish Qin for this. It would only make him more ashamed. Go down! Emperor Xia waved his hand. Those royal forest army can only withdraw. Whether it was the officials or the prince present, they were extremely humiliated. Anyone else? Come again. Qin looked around and sneered. The attitude is simply outrageous, insane. He was not afraid of Emperor Xia's anger at all. He dared to come today because he had a backup. Not only did he disregard the great Xia dynasty, but he also disregarded the entire Kanglan region. I'm here to fight you. At this moment, Qin Zhou, the son of the 4th prince, stood up and said coldly. Astonishing aura fluctuations erupted from his body, fully revealing his cultivation at the 5th level of the Yuan condensation realm. He held the gun and killed toward Qin. The aura surged above the spear, and the killing aura was terrifying. Feeling the terrifying power emanating from the 4th prince's son, all the officials and princes present had their hopes rekindled. Prince Qinzhou has broken through to the 5th level of Yuan condensation realm. He is really the first genius among this group of princes. He will definitely be able to teach this arrogant guy, the barbarian, a good lesson. All the ministers and officials and many princes were talking about it. For Qinzhou, he has great hopes. Even Xia Huang is the same. Neither can you. Glancing at Qinzhou who had come to kill him, Qin's face was full of disdain. Just like before, the power of thunder surged out of the fist again, and it hit Qinzhou fiercely. Boom! The fist collided with the spear, and an astonishing wave of aura erupted. The ground is shaking. However, Qin's advantage is extremely obvious. His terrifying punch directly broke the spear in Qinzhou's hand, and also injured Qinzhou, sending him flying. Thump! Qinzhou's defeat. Although he didn't vomit blood like the prince just now, it didn't feel good either. Silence. The whole banquet fell into silence. Everyone was shocked. Unexpectedly, Qin Zhou, the first genius among these princes, was not Shi Feng's opponent, and it was also defeated by a punch. How could Shi Feng be so strong? It seems that the so-called geniuses in the great Xia royal family are nothing more than that. This time, Shi Feng's words were extremely arrogant. This is already slapping the royal family in the face. Many people present wished they could rush up and kill Shi Feng. Emperor Xia's face was extremely gloomy, his fists were clenched, and he was so angry that he almost vomited blood. I'm here to fight you. At this moment, Qin Zining, who had been eating melons, suddenly stood up and said calmly. As she spoke, she put half of the watermelon and spoon in her arms on the table in front of her. Chapter 9. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Although Qin Zining is young, she knows a lot. Her father is the current crown prince. If Shi Feng leaves today with an invincible posture, her father will also be ashamed, so she took the initiative to stand up. As soon as these words came out, many eyes fell on Qin Zining. Why are you joining in the fun? I'm not even his opponent. Aren't you embarrassing my royal family by fighting him? Qin Zhou, who was injured just now, had just returned to his seat, and when he heard Qin Zining's words, he immediately scolded. Who didn't know that Qin Zining was born with damaged meridians? Even he was defeated. How could Qin Zining be Shi Feng's opponent? What a joke. It's none of your business here. Sit down quickly. Don't you think we are not ashamed enough today? The other princes and princesses also scolded Qin Zining one after another. Although everyone was about the same age, they felt that Qin Zining was the one who was destined to be married, and his status was far from theirs, so his words were ugly and he had nothing to hide. Qin Zining's mother didn't expect Qin Zining to stand up, and after a moment of surprise, she hurriedly pulled her back, but at this time, Qin Zining had already walked to the open area in the center, looking at Shi Feng solemnly. Ha! Is there no one left in the great Xia royal family? You actually sent such a weak woman with no cultivation to fight me. Shi Feng laughed loudly and said, why don't you marry this girl to me? I will never say anything about what happened today. The 13-year-old Qin Zining, slim and graceful, has the appearance of a city, and he can't help being moved. Zining, step back. Emperor Xia also had an ugly face, and he scolded softly. This is the crown prince's daughter. He couldn't understand it better. He knew that Qin Zining was born with damaged meridians and had no cultivation at all. What he didn't know was that what Qin Zining comprehended practiced was the taishu sword art that Qin Feng signed in and obtained. The current cultivation level of him and Chen Lao couldn't see through Qin Zining's realm at all. Qin Zining did not back down, but looked at Shi Feng and said angrily, don't you dare to fight me after talking so much? Let's fight. But when Shi Feng heard this, his face turned cold, and he decided to teach Qin Zining a good lesson, and then he took the initiative to strike. Thunder surged above his fist, and he slammed towards Qin Zining fiercely. Old Chen's face changed suddenly, and he wanted to stop him. Ha! However, at this moment, Qin Zining's body suddenly burst out with a powerful sword intent, and she swept out with a sword. The fierce sword light, like a crescent moon, came out from the sword and swept toward Shi Feng. Boom! Although Shi Feng shattered the sword glow, he took several steps back again and again. What? This scene shocked everyone present, whether it was civil and military officials, princes and princesses, or those of the barbarians. They all had expressions of disbelief. How is it possible? Isn't Princess Zining born with damaged meridians? How could she be so strong? She doesn't even study cultivation anymore, and there are no cultivation resources distributed. How can she improve her cultivation? Exclaimed voices sounded one after another. Everyone glanced at each other, and the shock in their eyes was hard to add, especially those imperial brothers and sisters who have always looked down on Qin Zining since they were young. It was as if they were slapped severely, and they were speechless. The expressions are all stiff. This. Emperor Xia and Old Chen looked at each other, and their eyes were full of shock. Why didn't they know that Qin Zining was so strong? At this time, Shi Feng had anger on his face besides shock. You were able to repel me. How is this possible? Outside of Shi Feng's entire body, the power of thunder surged out, crackling. He is at the peak of the 8th layer of condensed origin realm. Is this Qin Zining stronger than him? he doesn't believe it. You are not my opponent, admit defeat. Although there was only one sword, Qin Zining made a very accurate judgment. Shi Feng is not his opponent at all. She didn't want to shoot someone with a sword. Hateful, but when Shi Feng heard this, he became even more angry. An increasingly astonishing power of thunder surged out from his body. Boom! Carrying the terrifying power of thunder, Shi Feng rushed towards Qin Zining like a divine thunder. His whole body is like a divine weapon, exuding a power that is hard to resist. Wherever it passed along the way, it was scorched black as if it had been struck by thunder, just horrible. Careful! At this moment, all the civil and military officials changed their expressions and exclaimed. The terrifying thunder waves emanating from Shi Feng made them tremble with fear, thinking that Qin Zining might be hard to resist. Old Chen's face also changed suddenly, and he hurriedly wanted to make a move to help Qin Zining block the attack, but Qin Zining saw Shi Feng who had killed him, but his expression remained unchanged. The water of the great river comes up from the sky. With a soft shout, Qin Zining slashed out with a sword, Tao sword Qi, like a big river rushing down from the 9 heavens, rushed towards Shi Feng, and it was accompanied by the sound of rolling waves. Wherever he passed along the way, there were scoured sword marks. Boom! The sword energy like the Tao river collided with the thunder-wrapped Shi Feng, and a deafening sound broke out. He couldn't resist at all. He was directly thrown out, smashed heavily on the ground in the distance, and spat out a mouthful of scarlet blood. Silence! The whole banquet fell into silence. Everyone was shocked. No one thought of it. So many princes were defeated. Qin Zining, who was ignored by everyone, turned the tide and defeated Shi Feng. This result exceeded everyone's expectations. You lose. Qin Zining looked at the injured Shi Feng and said calmly. How could I lose? How could I lose? Shi Feng was so angry that he couldn't believe the result. He has such a huge immortal fate, and his cultivation base has improved so quickly. How could he be defeated by this little-known princess? He immediately wanted to take something out of his body. Seeing this, the elders of the Nanman mission quickly stepped forward, seemingly wanting to help him, but in fact they held his arm tightly, and said in a low voice, No. Absolutely no. There is a startling dragon array here. When Shi Feng heard this, although he was angry, his arm was grabbed by the elder and he couldn't move, so he could only endure it. The royal family of Great Xia is really full of talents, we are convinced. Elder Nanman then said to Emperor Xia with an admiration on his face. Ha ha. When Emperor Xia heard this, he immediately laughed. The depression in his heart just now disappeared. The young patriarch was injured, so I will leave first. Elder Nanman said slowly. Okay, I will arrange for the imperial physician to go to the post house to give your young patriarch a good treatment. Emperor Xia immediately agreed. He saw Qin Zining's terrifying cultivation just now, so he didn't have the mood to continue the banquet, and when he saw Elder Nanman wanted to leave, he immediately agreed. Afterwards, all the members of the Nanman mission respectfully saluted, left the palace, and headed towards the post house arranged by the Ministry of Rites. Let the people of Jinui look after them. Emperor Xia coldly ordered an eunuch beside him. Hearing this, the eunuch hurriedly nodded and left, and went to inform Jin Wei and Fushi. Chapter 10 The Peerless Sword Body is by my side. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The eyes of Emperor Xia and everyone were focused on Qin Zining. Zining, when did you become so powerful? Emperor Xia couldn't help asking. He clearly remembered that his granddaughter was born with damaged meridians, and there was no cure for it. Grandfather, I don't know why, but in the past few years, my cultivation has grown very fast. Qin Zining blinked her big eyes, and said truthfully, I often break through when I fall asleep. What she said was the absolute truth, no lies. What? Qin Zining's words made everyone present look extremely excited. Falling asleep breaks through. In this world, is there such a good thing? Nonsense, how could someone break through while asleep? Emperor Xia pretended to be sullen. Real. Seeing Emperor Xia's disbelief, Qin Zining said anxiously, not only did I break through in my sleep, but sometimes I even comprehended sword skills in my sleep. The sword intent of the great river that was displayed just now was realized after waking up after seeing the turbulent great river in a dream. She naturally didn't know, The reason for this was because Qin Feng hid various sword secrets in various stories, told her, and integrated them into her mind. When Emperor Xia heard the words, he fell into silence immediately. He wanted to ask just now why Qin Zining used a sword technique that he had never heard of before, but he did not expect that Qin Zining had comprehended it himself. "What's the name of the exercise you practice?" Elder Qin next to him said solemnly. "You also realized it while you were sleeping." That he felt that Qin Zining's practice was even more strange, and he couldn't even see through Qin Zining's cultivation. Taishu Sword Art. Once when I was practicing, I felt that the exercises taught by the teacher were too slow to practice, so I thought about how to practice faster, and after thinking about it, countless thoughts came out of my mind. Qin Zining said seriously, "Then it will be a matter of course and I will understand the Taishu Sword Art." This. Old Chen was also completely dumbfounded. How could there be such a genius in the world? He actually created a set of sword techniques and a set of exercises. Emperor Xia also didn't know what to say. He has been on the throne for so many years, his eyes are like a torch, and he has never seen many conspiracies and tricks. He can tell at a glance whether a 13-year-old girl is lying or not. He knew that Qin Zining was telling the truth. "Does your Majesty still remember that sword cry 13 years ago?" At this time, a minister suddenly stood up and said solemnly, "From the beginning to the end, we haven't found out where the peerless sword body is. Will it be?" Having said that, he did not continue, "But Xia Huang is so smart, how could he not understand?" At this moment, his face changed suddenly, and he thought of a lot. Few people in the royal family were born with damaged meridians, but Qin Zining was born with damaged meridians. When he got the news, he was very puzzled and didn't understand why. But if it is that the peerless sword body has not yet formed, then it makes sense. Peerless sword body. Mr. Chen's eyes lit up, and he immediately believed the guess, saying, "Yes. If Princess Zining is the peerless sword body, everything will be explained." Qin Zining was able to create her own swordsmanship and kung fu because she was born for swordsmanship. "Congratulations, my emperor, this is God's blessing for my great summer." All the civil and military officials present also had a sudden understanding, and they all knelt down to congratulate. Seeing that everyone thought the same as him, Emperor Xia could no longer hide the joy on his face. "The peerless sword body is actually beside me. Pass the decree, confer the title of Princess Qinshui on Zining, and reward, bolts of silk." Emperor Xia said immediately. Hearing his reward, the faces of all the people present changed, especially those princes and princesses, who were all envious and jealous. Qinshui is a river in the ancestral land of the Daxia royal family, and Qin Zining was conferred the title of Princess Qinshui, which shows how much it is valued. "Thank you, Grandpa Emperor. Qin Zining also knows etiquette." "Thank you very much." Emperor Xia nodded, and let the ministers go to work, and he took Qin Zining to go to the weapons pavilion, and let Qin Zining choose weapons at will as a reward. In the post house where the Nanman mission lived, the imperial physician had just left, and a barbarian followed him to the imperial hospital to get medicine to heal Feng. "Why did you stop me just now? If you didn't stop me, with the thunder token, it would be easy for me to kill Qin Zining," Feng said to the barbarian elders angrily. "Young patriarch, you are too impulsive." The barbarian elder said helplessly, "There is a startling dragon formation guarding the imperial palace. If you killed Qin Zining just now with the help of the thunder token, then all of us will be buried in the imperial palace." "Humph. Since the great war of sealing demons, all the great dynasties have declined incomparably. Now this startling dragon formation can kill the cultivators who have just entered the Purple Mansion realm." "How can it kill me?" Feng snorted coldly and said with complete disdain, "This thunder token is a relic of the supreme powerhouse. If he activates all the power in the thunder token, his cultivation can soar all the way to the third heaven of the Purple Mansion realm. The dragon's shocking formation couldn't do anything to him at all." "Young patriarch, you are really thinking too simply. If you really kill Qin Zining in public, the great Xia dynasty will definitely live forever with our clan. At that time, millions of elite soldiers will come out, and you who have exhausted the power of thunder, how can you resist?" The barbarian elder said slowly. He was a little helpless. If the barbarians were smarter, they wouldn't be buried in the southern mountains by virtue of their natural fighting power and vitality. But is that the way it is? Shi Feng said unwillingly. If I don't kill Qin Zining, my Tao heart will be unstable. In his eyes, with a fairy fate, his future goal must be a wider world. This so-called prince of the great Xia royal family is just the beginning of his fame in the world. It is a stepping stone on his way to the summit. He absolutely wouldn't allow him to be here and leave behind a defeat. A small leak will sink a great ship. The barbarian elders could only persuade. I can't stand it. Shi Feng's temper was hot, and he said solemnly, since it is obvious that I can't kill her, then I will kill her secretly. What do you mean? The barbarian elder said suspiciously. I sneaked into the palace tonight, and quietly killed Qin Zining at the lowest cost without being discovered by the startled dragon formation. Shi Feng said coldly, in this way, the power in the thunder token will not be exhausted, and Qin Zining can be killed. At that time, we don't have to be afraid even if we face the great Xia dynasty face to face. Too dangerous, the barbarian elder hurriedly said. Stop talking. You guys have to wait for me outside the imperial city first. Shi Feng didn't listen to the persuasion at all, and took out a token directly. The token was surrounded by thunder and crackled. Ha! The power of thunder instantly enveloped the barbarian elders and the others, teleporting them all away without a trace, and Shi Feng's icy eyes also looked in the direction of the palace, and walked out of the station. Crack! The thunder token in Shi Feng's hand split dozens of lightning bolts in an instant. Genie, who was hiding in the dark, didn't even have time to make a scream, and was wiped out. Afterwards, he continued to walk towards the palace.